Hey, we're recording. Yay. All right. So tonight we come to Hosea chapter 2. We're going to spend a little bit of time going back, rehashing just a little bit with Hosea, with a just making clear again, kind of a distinction that I didn't make as clear as I wanted to between prostitution and adultery. And then also, I wanted to address a concern that one of the study Bibles raised at the very end of our session last time in terms of whether or not this is Hosea's kid, and I have a better answer. The answer is still I'm right and study Bible is wrong. But now at least I have a grammatical point to be able for us to take a look at. And so we're going to take a look at that because it's also going to show us, as I was saying, Hosea is a little difficult, but he's also a wordsmith. And so we're going to take a look at that. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you that you bring us to your word, a word that fills us and informs us, a word that instructs us, and so gives the world a greater meaning. We thank you that you love us in spite of us, and we ask that you would send your Holy Spirit that we may not be like Gomer, but rather may be faithful unto you, who has redeemed us from all things. This we ask in the name of Christ. Amen. All right. So first off, I was going back through my notes and I wanted to just make a distinction. So in chapter 1, we offered the idea that this is not necessarily prostitution straight up, since we are find in verse 2, go take for yourself a wife of, the ESV says whoredom. The NIV says adulterous wife. I think I use the term fornicating or fornication, a wife of fornication, one kind of given to that. Prostitution and adultery are very closely related terms, not only idiomatically, but also in terms of some of the grammatical structures they share in Hebrew. But the formal difference is this, that adultery informally breaks the marital bonds. Okay. So adultery informally, prostitution formally breaks those bonds. So if you go out on the street corner, you are showing to everyone that these bonds are broken. That's a formal discussion. Whereas informally, if you're hiding this thing, it may be broken, but it's not apparent, right? So it's informal in that way. So that's just kind of where we're at with those terms. I just wanted to highlight that. Now, I'm going to share my screen here in just a second. I got to get back to the verse. We're going to look at some Hebrew here. No, this is all right. Sometimes this Bible Works program is wonderful, and other times I don't understand. I set it to Hosea 1:9, and now it's displaying Mark 8:34. This is an oddity. Why? Why did you just decide that I needed that? Thank you. All right, back to Hosea here. Hosea 1, verse 9. All righty. And time to share it. Share the screen. There we go. All right. Let's make that a little bit bigger.
Oh, it's so clear now.
I know, shush.
Foreign language.
I'm making it bigger if I can figure out how. Nope, that goes that way. Well, come none of my
Auto zoom.
buttons work now.
I just did an auto zoom. See, zoom.
There you go.
No.
I don't know where my zoom button is on this laptop. All right. How do I zoom in?
Control button, hold in, and then zoom your mouse button roller up.
Yeah, I have a touchpad, Ken.
Oh, crying out loud. You're a touchpad
And it's not an
person?
Apple. I can't just.
Oh, man. I can't help
All
you,
right.
brother.
Here, we're gonna do this. You guys get to see this is pastoring on the fly. Open up Word. I know how to do it in Word. I don't know if you guys can see what's going on my screen right now.
We just
Nope.
see Bible works.
You just see Bible works. Okay. Well, that didn't work, so we're not going to use word. So, no, don't save the awful thing that I just made. View. Can you make it bigger? Like my function buttons don't even work to make things bigger. This is ridiculous. I just don't understand.
I don't know, but it just popped to Galatians, by the way.
I know, this is incredible, isn't it?
God works in mysterious ways.
Oh my goodness.
I was going to say God works at Microsoft. I mean, Satan.
All right, we're
He knows those Apple people are just wrong.
I know. See, I want to show you why, and they're just not gonna let me here. Let's see if I can do this way. I don't want the Pentateuch. I want the prophets.
It's actually readable as is.
All right, does everybody else agree with that synopsis?
As we zoom in.
Once you zoom in, all right. I'm gonna see if I can bring it up here a little bit differently. I'm using a different program here for a second.
We
Just
can
to
zoom in. Nice.
That's him.
Oh,
Oh,
no, that's you.
That's to get better. I'm going to use this program. All right. Stop that chair. I know you all just made it look nice. Now I'm going to go do something else. We're going to share again. Maybe. Share. All right. Now you're seeing some Hebrew stuff, right? Some
Yep.
English and some Hebrew stuff.
If you say so.
Yeah.
Yes. This
Next.
is verse 9. All right. You can see my mouse cursor, right?
Yes.
Yep.
In circles. Great. This is going to take us a longer time than I wanted to. I'm just going to make the point more easily. Okay. So the way that we left it, so the ESV says something to the effect of, I will not be their God, right? But that's not what the Hebrew text actually says. What the Hebrew text actually says begins here. Va Anoki means I. It's kind of a formal I. Ani can be a kind of a non-formal I. So it's a formal I. I, lo, ahani, or hanye. The verb here, this kind of weird looking one right here, this means is from the verb to be. And that little kind of X looking thing is called an aleph. It is a thing you put on the front of a verb to say, I will, right? To make the verb kind of fit the person who's speaking. So I will not be for them, or I will not be. Lo means not. So I myself will not be. And then leken here means simply for them or to them. So literally something to the effect of, I will not be theirs, I will not be yours, I will not be, okay? This term, though, right? You can see it has like 4 distinct shapes, right? 4 letters. The name of God in Hebrew, all right, when we say Yahweh, it's called the Tetragrammaton. It has 4 letters. When God speaks to Moses in Exodus chapter 3, and because Moses is like, you want me to go where and do what? The people are going to go nuts. So who should I say sent me? And Yahweh says, Ehwe et Ehwe. I am who I am, right? Which we then, pronounce Yahweh later on because it's a different form of the, never mind. There's Hebrew reasons we call him Yahweh instead of Ehwe. This word, though, that I have highlighted for you, that's the word that God uses for his own name. So it's not, I won't necessarily be their God. It's literally, this is Hosea playing with the name of God. So he is saying, I will not be I am to them, right? I will not be who I said I was to them, right? Because they are not if they don't want to be my people, right? If they don't want to be, right? That's the idea. If they are not my people, then I won't be their God. And it implies then, right, that's really not a true condition. That, well, they are my people. I will be their God to them, right? So that's where we get into then the grammatical strengthening of, and this really is Hosea's kid, but as this is a kind of cast under darkness, look, if you don't want to be my kid, then I won't be your God. I won't be your father. If you don't want in the house, you can go. But it implies that there's a basis of relationship that exists there. Clear as mud? Clear as mud. Fantastic. All right. So that's where I wanted to show you guys. And again, that just speaks to, again, what we said last time, that Hosea is not only difficult Hebrew, but that he is a wordsmith and he plays with words. And so you have to be paying, I have to be paying more attention for us as we look through these things. So, all right. Time to finally get into chapter 2. If my Bible Works program will let me study Hosea tonight, that is, since it's still thinking I'm in Galatians. Why did you think I was in Galatians? That's what I want to know. This is so odd. Back to Hosea. Chapter 2. All right. So Hosea chapter 2 begins in this way. Say to your brothers, all right. This is how the English renders it. Okay. Say to your brothers, you are my people. No. I'm just double checking here. The Hebrew and the English are different. Sorry. There we go. I'm actually looking at the English chapter 1, verse 10. Sorry about that. I forgot. I've told you that I don't like verses, right? This is why, because they are made up, they aren't original, and they cause me to do things like this. So, all right. I'm not your God, you will not be my people. Verse 10 then, and yet the number of the children of Israel shall be like the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered or measured. And in it, the place where it was said to them, you are not my people, it shall be said to them, children of the living God. Right? So again, the idea here being that it is, Israel is God's child, and they've been acting as if they don't want him to be their God, but in the end, God is going to be faithful, right? The idea of children being as numerous as the sand on the seashore evokes Genesis chapter 22, right? One of the promises given to Abraham, your children will be more numerous, okay? We get that in 22, we get that in Genesis 41. We also have some images of it in First Kings as well. So God's going to be faithful, and where they once said, right, where he once gave them the judgment, you are not my people, because of his faithfulness, in the end, they're going to become children of the living God. So nothing too hard there in the Hebrew side of things. So, but again, we get this wonderful recalling of judgment into grace, of law into gospel. Right? Just as we kind of heard today, that that reversal where John had it from gospel to law. Here the Lord goes from the law to the gospel. All right. Any questions on that? Fantastic. And the children of Judah and the children of Israel shall be gathered together, and they shall appoint for themselves one head, and they shall go up from the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel. Yes. So this is one head. This is kind of a fun little term, right? Not one ruler, but literally one rosh. Rosh means top of the head or start of something. It's how the book of Genesis begins, in the Roshim, in the beginning. So, but here it's just referring to one ruler, one individual, right? This speaks to a unity, right? The children of Judah and the children of Israel. Right now, when Hosea is prophesying, are they one nation, two nations? They're two. That's right. They're two nations. They're split. There's not one kingdom. There's not one head. But here the Lord says, no, 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 I'm going to be faithful to my promise. And when I am, this is what's going to happen. They're going to become numerous, right? They're going to be gathered together. They're going to appoint for themselves one head. The shall appointing for themselves is kind of an odd thing. But I get what they're trying to say with that. But the idea is not even appointing for themselves. Really, it's they're gonna gather, they're gonna have one leader. Who's the one leader ultimately of these two kingdom nations when they become numerous and blessed and God is faithful? You're not going to find it in the Old Testament.
Jesus.
Thank
Always-
you. Yes, right. It's always Jesus. When he asks
Sorry,
a
I
bad
keep getting a
question,
lot
the
of-
answer is almost always Jesus. Exactly.
Exactly. I feel like I hear a lot of road noise, so I'm keeping myself muted.
No worries. No worries. So yeah, this is they appointing for themselves one head. They're going to see the Messiah, and the Messiah is going to bring unity, and they are going to go up from the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel. Now again, this is playing off of the idea that the place of Jezreel is a place of judgment, right? But now that judgment is being undone, right? Because Jezreel means God sows. And what has he sown now? Where there was once disunity, where there was once a lack of harmony, where there was once, sin and animosity, now there is unity under the one head, right? What is it? Where is this? This is found, in the coming of the Christ who sows, right, the word, as we have numerous parables from him, right, that he sows the word upon the people of God. That'll be the day of Jezreel. All right, this day in which God sows, and we see the fruits of faith drawn together. So Hosea again playing with lots of imagery for us. Anything else out of 11? Okay, hit my button. Now we finally get to Hosea 2. At least on your screens. In Hebrew, we're in chapter 2, verse 3 now. All right. Here we move from, and I can see why the English makes this decision. The Hebrew chapter is kind of an odd place to make the chapter decision, because now you have a new kind of phrase, right? Previously, we have the aftermath, right? Call this kid this, but I tell you, these things are going to be the case, kind of judgment and unjudgment. Now the Lord speaks again. So he gives to the prophet something else to say. So say to your brothers, Ami, you are my people, or my people, quite literally. And to your sisters, Ruchama, mercy, or compassion, right? This is the KJV simply transliterates this and just blows by. For any English speaker, they have no idea what's going on. But these are the names of the children, right? So to the son, the first son, right? He is called Lo Ami, not my people. Now that's reversed for them. Or this is the second son. Sorry, the first son is Jezreel. We've seen the judgment of Jezreel in the unity that God brings. Then to the second son, you are not my people. Now he is that person, right? You are my people. And to the daughter that's born in between the sons, she was Lo Ruhama, not or no mercy, no compassion, right? No pity, I think somebody had last week. And so now pity, compassion, right? Again, that reversal. What was once denied is now given. all of that comes because of the unity that God brings about through that day of Jezreel, through that unity of what he sows, through the one head. And we are the body. So when Paul says, and this is something just again to draw again the scriptures together, when Paul says that we are all one body and we have one head, he's not just making a body reference. He's also making a nod to the prophet Hosea and to this prophecy. All right. So all that's good, right? God's going to do this. Yay and amen. Then it goes bad. Hosea is then told, or God's people are then told that, while they've received mercy, their mother, so kind of the state or the nation state here of Israel in this case, they are not doing as they ought. Okay, so we're going to look at this first historically, and then we'll look at it, how it might teach and apply to the church today. So it reads this way in the ESV, plead with your mother, plead, for she is not my wife and I am not her husband, that she put away her whoring from her face and her adultery from between her breasts. All right. What's Israel doing?
Worshipping other gods.
That's right. That is the great spiritual adultery. We see this time and again throughout the scriptures in the Old Testament and in the New. We're going to get to this actually in the book of Revelation. We're going to come to in 19. I'm going to actually draw us back. No, one of the chapters. I'm going to draw us to the line in chapter 18 of Revelation where it says, Babylon is fallen. And our first instinct is to think the great city is fallen. But Babylon is called the great whore in the book of Revelation, the one who causes the believers to commit spiritual adultery, right? This great evil. And it's the same evil that we see in the Old Testament, the same kind of image that we have here, that this is Israel is committing a spiritual adultery by worshiping other gods. All right. And so it opens the question as to whether or not Hosea's wife is actually committing physical adultery, right? Informally breaking that marital bond, or if she is one of the worshipers of Baal or the Ashtoreth or these other local, gods. And so she is not worshiping Yahweh, right? Not worshiping the God of Israel, but now is worshiping other things. And so she, as a stand-in for Israel, is doing the same thing. So here it says plead. The NIV says rebuke. The Hebrew word is contend with, kind of argue with. That's the idea. So argue with your mother. Because we don't tell children to do this, right? Husbands and wives, deal with your problems together. Don't make your kids do it for you. That's triangulation. That's different, but this is a spiritual thing. Okay, so we're going to set that aside for right now. But in this, he's making this, God is putting these words out there, not to say that she is not his wife, but that, she is saying she is not my wife, and that I am not her husband, right? That the marital bond is broken. That's what she's saying. That this has been formally dissolved because of her fornication. And so Yahweh is saying, no, it doesn't have to be this way. Put these things away. Don't do it anymore, right? There's forgiveness. There's resolution. Doesn't have to be that way. So those who even today worship after the false gods of Sunday morning hockey and other sporting events, or sleeping in, right? The god of pillows and downs. All sorts of these little minor gods still exist that people go after, and that the Lord calls us to set those things aside. Okay? Not to worship them, not to give them. Well, let's talk about that for a minute here. Yeah, we're not going to get that far. That's okay. We got through 4 verses. I'm happy, Ken. What does it mean to worship something?
Put it front and center instead of God.
Okay, so put it front and center instead of God.
Yeah.
All right, what does that look like? I don't disagree. I'm just wondering.
Turn to it,
Prioritizing.
Okay, what was that, Ken?
turn to it in need when you need something. You look to that thing to make you happy or comfort you or.
Yeah, it's kind of using something for an outsized need or beyond what it's given for. Luther talks about that your God is whatever you trust in to get things done. So, if you're having a problem and what you trust is that you got enough money to solve it, then you've made money into your God. If you've looked to your prince to solve it, right, or your pope, then you've made them into gods instead of trusting in the Lord, or your own efforts or your own whatever. Then you've turned those things into gods. I like that idea of whatever you're trusting to kind of solve your problem. That God gives us plenty of ways to solve problems. I'm not saying don't solve your problems or something like that, but when you don't look to God as the one who gives that means, and you don't look to God as the one who can provide for us in those needs, but rather you look just to these other things, that's when we have upended the apple cart or misplaced the priorities in those ways. Lots of times, and I know plenty of young people who, if I asked, what gods are you worshiping today, they're going to say they're not, right? They're not, sacrificing bulls on altars or offering incense to foreign gods. They're not doing any of that. Okay, but how much time are you sacrificing to the god of social media? Right? How much anger are you letting arise and form you, in your self-sacrifice of your marriage or your children on this, altar of technology? We have plenty of these altars. It gets a little, more esoteric to be thinking of them in that way, but yeah, we're still doing this. So Hosea still certainly has a word for us to call us back away from these things. These are their tools out there. That's really what Baal worship was, by the way. Right? I know it's a false religion. Don't hear me there. But Baal was the god. Well, do you guys know what Baal was the god of? All right, Baal is one of these kind of catch-alls gods. Okay, he tends to grow in power throughout kind of the history of the ancient Near East, but initially he's the god of rain and thunder. He's the god of kind of plants growing, okay, because it kind of everything goes together, right? And he's also the god of fertility. All right. So when your neighbor's grass grows and yours doesn't, and you look and you say, but I put down fertilizer, I watered the same, right? What didn't I do? What tool didn't I use? Well, my neighbor prayed to Baal. They had that direct line. Got a little bit more of a boost, and so Israel used that. They wanted to be like everybody else, and that's one of the main reasons that they adopted, it appears, kind of these religious cults, the Canaanite peoples, is because they seem to be effective to get these lesser things done, whether it be having more babies or having the land have babies or whatever it was. That was kind of how one of the tools, quote unquote, they were using to try and get ahead. And we see the same thing today. People using social media, people using technology, people using business relations, all sorts of things to get ahead, and trusting in those things as opposed to the trusting that God will handle these things. So, and then becoming despairing when things don't work out the way you do, right? If you want to know that social media is an evil god, just look at the way that it leaves people. It's just like the prophets of Baal up on the mountain against Elijah, right? Where's your God now? Maybe he's on the toilet, right? I mean, That isn't a description of, people looking for satisfaction in social media. I don't know what it is. So, and then they hurt themselves, in order to try and get his attention. So yeah, we don't have to do that. And that's a good thing. All right.
One of
Where
the
are we
things
at?
I found, I told you I read the book that was set in 270 in Rome.
Yes.
And one of the main characters was blind, and they kept going to all the different gods trying to heal her. And they finally went to the unknown God.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there was a altar to a God that they don't know yet.
Yep.
And I was just like, all right, that's a nice little catch-all.
Yeah, and it really was. Sometimes that's how people like, Paul, uses that as a catch-in too out of Acts. The development of the unknown God is kind of an interesting thing because there's actually the Parthenon, or the Parthian, the group of gods, Partha something. Anyway, pantheon. There we go. Got there. The pantheon of Greek and Roman gods was not a set thing. We think about it now and we think about the old stories and we're like, oh, okay, okay, we got Zeus, we got Hermes, we got it grew over time. Hercules, one of those examples. Dionysus is the big one though. Dionysus started as a mortal man. His stories started as a mortal dude, and then he had a cult that kind of arose around him, and there was an expectation that he would become divine. And so, really, in just 200-300 years before Christ, is when Dionysus really takes on this role of becoming not only the wine god, but a number of other things. So, yeah, so that wasn't as set. So it's the unknown god, just in case there's another Dionysus walking around. I think that's where that comes from. Anywho, all right, back we go to Hosea, having gone here, there, and everywhere today. So again, just running from 2, all right, plead with your mother, right? For she is not my wife, because she's not acting that way. And I am not her husband, that she put away these things, all right, adultery from her breasts, right? If she, then verse, 2-3 here, lest, okay? Lest is a word that is showing us that this sentence is dependent, okay? If this, then this, okay? That's the argument here. Plead with her, because if she says, I ain't your wife anymore, what does God say? All right, you want to go that way? This is what the consequence is going to be, right? If you don't want to be the wife anymore, then I won't be your husband, and I will take away the things that I gave you. And so here we have in 3, lest I strip her naked and make her as in the day when she was born, and make her like the wilderness, and make her like a parched land, and kill her with thirst. Odd descriptions. Trina's given us a wonderful, what exactly is going on here. So the first part of that sentence before the second and, strip her naked, make her as the day she was born, okay? That's a description of kind of a human side of things, right? Because we're speaking both of a nation state and of a wife in this case. So the first half is, I'm going to take everything so she has nothing, and I'll make her like when she was born, which is to say she has nothing. And then Hosea moves to this metaphor of the nation state. I'll make her not of land flowing with milk and honey, but a wilderness, a parched land that is without water, right? And I'll kill her with thirst. It will become a famine. That what should be flowing with milk and honey, empty, right? This woman who should be full of children, full of life, full of, right, clothed and beautiful, right? What Paul says when he says in Ephesians 5 that a husband ought to present his wife as holy, undefiled, right? Beautiful, without spot or blemish. It's the exact opposite of that. She is not covered, and all of her faults are seen. Okay. This is one thing that, if I was ever in charge of doing an entire translation of the Bible, this is something that I would try and make a little bit more of a deal with. I think there should be a distinction made in the scriptures between nakedness and nudity, right? Now, in the beginning, Adam and Eve are naked. They're not afraid. They aren't on TV. Okay. Yeah, naked and afraid, right? Okay. Anyway, in that, it's simply a naturalistic state, right? There is a nakedness, which is this natural quality. That nakedness has qualities of sexuality in it. It has qualities of beauty in it. Okay. There are reasons that we now wear clothes and tell our children to wear clothes and make sure people in public wear clothes, all that. But that nakedness has this kind of, I think I would love to see a translation that really holds to that line of kind of leaving naked as a word of goodness, right? Whereas, really you find this even in the books of Leviticus and in Deuteronomy, where there's these pronostications, there's these laws about, you don't sleep with your mom or with your stepmom, right? Because you're uncovering your father's nakedness. And again, that's getting back to that original, that purity of what it is to be in a couple, to be united together, to even again to have there's a sexualness to it, most certainly, but there's a goodness to it, right? And exposing that goodness really perverts it, right? It's something that is really safe for those people. The difference of that between nudity is an exposing of this thing that's hidden, and it's a lessening of it, right? It's not the same, goodness, but it really is a kind of a negative term. And you find these kind of things in Hebrew fairly often. You'll find in Hebrew when somebody is, kind of, it's a positive thing. And Adam knew his wife and she conceived. That's a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. What's going on there? But that's a positively phrased item. Whereas they also in Hebrew will phrase that same activity negatively and say that somebody lay with or went into somebody. Very physical description of that, but it's just very negative in its connotation, right? It's neutral to negative. I'd just love to see somebody kind of do that here with this. Again, not to strip her naked to that original purity, but really to expose her nudity would be one way, right? That is to show the shame and the sinfulness that's there. That's really what the idea is getting at. So not a return to Eden, but here an exposing of the sin that exists there. So long explanation to get to a small point, but that's okay. I'm known for such things. All right, good. And kill her with thirst. That's what's going to happen because Christ is the living water, right? Here again, where this is, explicitly Hosea is preaching to Israel and Judah. And within that is using imagery that's common to the promised land, that if there's no rain, right, this thing that they've been worshiping, Baal, is supposed to send the rain, right? Now, what is implicit here? Baal don't send the rain. I send the rain. You want to worship him? That's fine. Go ahead. It ain't going to work. And we see that play out in the ministry of Elijah. When Elijah calls for a famine, he calls for no rain. And so for 3 years, Israel receives no rain by the providence of God, again, showing the weakness of Baal. Here, again, Hosea playing on that same image. If you want to go after this one who you think it's going to make it rain, they ain't going to make it rain. Maybe you get one. That's Vegas, baby. If you set that marriage there, what happens in Vegas don't stay in Vegas, and it's going to have consequences. And that's, again, what the Lord is kind of getting at here. I'm very glad that Hosea didn't have Vegas to play with because, he would sound just as dumb as I did there. All right. Onward.
I have a
Go ahead.
question.
Yes.
Well, not a question, a thought. So this description, like you were saying, is kind of like opposite of the promised land.
Yes,
They're like being tossed aside,
exactly.
or tossed out. Okay.
Yep.
Because that's kind of how I was taking it. They were tossing her out into the wilderness.
Yep.
A la promised, Garden of Eden, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah, this whole chapter, actually, from here through the end, is going to be the Lord saying, as he said, through the children that, look, if you don't want to be my wife anymore, Israel, if you don't want to worship me, then I'm going to take my stuff that I gave you. Right? You don't get to keep it. This isn't like 50-50. This is an amenable divorce. You stepped out, you made mistakes, you get nothing. And so, yeah, he's going to take that from them. So he's going to take their land. He's going to take their rain. He's going to take their crops. He's going to take their everything. All right.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Yeah, no, very good. All righty. So Hosea 2:4, upon her children, I will also have no mercy, for they are children of whoredom. Right. So again, this is where one of those passages where a study Bible might say they're not Hosea's kids. Right. Here you have a little bit more of a credence to perhaps say that. Again, I'm going to stand by the argument that in chapter 1, I think it's as clear as the Hebrew can make it, that they are Hosea's kids, but we see the consequences run downhill. Sins of the father poured out upon the children. Okay. If the nation state of Israel doesn't want to have God as their God, well, then, okay, your kids, they don't get my mercy. I want them to have mercy. I want them to be Ami. I want them to be my people. I want them to have Rumah. I want them to have mercy. But if you don't want me, then I won't be Yahweh to you. Right? That's how this whole thing begins. If you don't want me, I won't be Yahweh to you. And if I'm not Yahweh to you, then there is no mercy. There is no peace. There is no promised land. You can go back to Egypt and see how that worked out for you. All right. 2:5 here. All right. Just making sure I'm following along with where I'm at in the Hebrew. It's still square letters, it's still squiggles, and it's still hard. So, all right. For their mother, again, this is, the Lord saying first to the children, contend, and now he's kind of explaining this whole situation. For their mother has, in the ESV, it says, played the whore. She who conceived them has acted shamefully. For she said, I will go after my lovers who give me my bread and my water, my wool and my flax, and my oil and my drink. Okay. Now, the NIV says she's been unfaithful and has conceived them in disgrace. Again, this is where we get some ambiguity in the Hebrew. It's a little hard to nail down exactly where these things go. As far as where I sit, it's kind of an interesting, phrase here. It's very clear that, their mother has, she has, committed. She's played the whore, the harlot. Now this could be an actual description of Hosea's wife stepping out. This could be a description of Hosea's wife worshiping Baal. Okay, we got to kind of let those two things sit simultaneously. She who conceived them, that's these children who God wants to have mercy on, has acted here shamefully. Okay. You get, shamefully, literally, she will become shamed, or she will be made to be shamed. That's kind of what the Hebrew says. She's acted in a way that will bring shame upon her. For she said, I will go to my lovers, the ones, giving to me food, and then all these things, right? So again, this is where, again, if we started off last week and we said, okay, there's a couple of possibilities. Either she's a full-on prostitute right away, right? That she makes her living by means of the sex trade. She's a wife who steps out, right, and actually commits physical adultery, or she's just this worshiper of Baal. This verse is one of those places where those who want to sit with the first answer, right, that she's a prostitute, would be able to look for some support. Okay, because if you're going to trade sex for something, might as well get something out of the deal. And so So she's going to go back to her lovers, the ones who give her, okay, we got bread and water, so we got basic needs, right? We got wool and flax, so we've got stuff for clothing, and care of the body. Then my oil and my drink. This is that next level of things, right? The enjoyment of life. So not just you got basic needs, you've got clothing, right? So kind of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, kind of thinking that way. The oil and drink, oil and really kind of wine is the idea there. Even strong drink. These are things that let you have a good time. Yes.
So I know this, it's kind of, we're talking about Hosea's wife on one side, but also talking about God and his relationship with the Israelites. So would this also go into with God, with his relationship with the Israelites, the whole bread and water, would that be all false gods that they, again, worshiping things?
Yeah, so the lovers would be the false gods.
Okay.
Right. And so it would be the false gods that they are worshiping for sending the rain, causing the grain to grow, causing the sheep to multiply, right? Making sure that the vines produce and the trees don't die, right? And again, looking to drink for happiness, that in this wine I might find some enjoyment, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow will die kind of idea. So certainly all of that. And so you see it, you can play it out in terms of Israel's life. You can certainly play it out in terms of, if she's stepping out, it gets a little weird, right? If she's stepping out, because, most of us, in fairly successful marriages, and that none of them are broken that I'm aware of. Sorry if I'm pushing on a nerve for anybody, but we care for the other person. Like they don't have to go to other lovers to get bread or food or basic needs or, those sorts of things. So yeah, certainly, again, just like we saw in the last verse, where it's a kind of a using the wife as the central metaphor, and then it moves to the nation state. I think we're having the exact same thing happen here, that she's been unfaithful, and then putting in her mouth really what the Israelites are doing, this worship of false gods. If it isn't clear, I hold the idea that Hosea's wife here is a Baal worshiper, that she's not worshiping Yahweh. I don't think she stepped out on him. I just don't see that in the text. I think she's committing spiritual adultery in this case. And I think that Hosea is calling it as if it were physical adultery to a degree. So, all right. Okay. Onward we go. On to 6. Now, this is another weird one. Again, if you don't know kind of, what is this, 7th century, 8th century Near Eastern agricultural techniques, this one might go over your head, okay? I know you all had that in class. It was a few years ago, but all right, we'll get there. So, therefore, I will hedge up her way with thorns, and I will build a wall against her so that she cannot find her paths. Now, when you hear this, I'm just going to let you guys just kind of fill in. What is he talking about?
Sounds like one of those big, huge garden mazes.
Okay. Yeah. All right. All right. So we got some French, French kings going on here. Kind of maze it out. Yeah. Yeah. So go ahead.
Make it difficult.
Okay, going to make things difficult. Yes. Yes. Again, here, key word here is therefore, right? So again, this is all contingent. All these sentences are built into one another, kind of in this hierarchy, right? If you say you don't want to be the wife anymore, then I'm going to take these things away, right? And therefore, when I take them away, this is what I'm going to do. So kind of we're at this third section here. This is what Yahweh is speaking again, that he's now going to do. Not only is he going to take things away, he's going to put something in place. And here, to hedge up with thorns, all right, this idea is a ancient husbandry technique. So it's what you do with like sheep and goats and cows and things in the ancient world, because you didn't have electric fences and you don't have, an easy ability to keep everything, in the pens and where you want them. You think about, these shepherds who have hundreds of sheep or goats or things. They're not that easy to, keep in one section versus another always. So what's something you could do? Well, one of the things they did in the ancient Near East was they actually planted thorns as hedges, as walls to areas, so that these animals would either get stuck in them or wouldn't go through them. Okay. So when you hear Jesus again, Jesus goes and, where the, here's the 99, where's the one? And he's caught in the thorns somewhere, right? Because he was trying to go where he shouldn't have. God put the hedge in place. The hedge worked. And you got caught. And now the Lord comes and gets you, right? So you would not be there alone. Here, the Lord says, okay, if you want to act that way, what's he going to do? He's going to build a cage around that, right? He might allow you to have this quote unquote freedom of sin, but he's doing so even in a controlled way, lest you completely destroy yourself, right? Because again, his goal is to draw back to repentance. His goal is that in seeing this wickedness and seeing the shame and just allowing this person to hit rock bottom, that he would then be there to restore, to bring them back. And so Hosea, kind of moves from this planting image with Jezreel, all right, then to this image of, well, if she's going to act this way, then I'm gonna build a fence around her, and she can kick and scream and do whatever she wants in it, but she ain't gonna go, right? Again, keeping her a little more on the straight and narrow in order to prevent her from a great way of disaster. So, all right. I do like how the Greek translates it with an ume, which is a double negative. That in order that it would not be possible at all for her to find her way. Oh, that's good. All right. So we get into this in verse 7 here, verse 9 here in the Hebrew. She shall pursue her lovers and not overtake them. She shall seek them, but shall not find them. And then she will say, I will go and return to my first husband, for it was better for me than now, than now. All right, so why does the Lord put things in the way? Because we're dumb. Because we don't get it. Because we want our own way. Wasn't Egypt better, Moses? We had meat pots. Here, I don't have meat pots. I was a slave. I had to make bricks. People were beaten to death. They were killing my kids as they came out of the womb. But man, we had meat pots. Yeah. The Lord is gracious and merciful. We are thankful that he will put up these kind of boundaries. He did so for ancient Israel. All right. They weren't easy, most certainly. Right. We see great, issues. This warning, right, goes out to Israel. And within 70 years, Israel doesn't listen. And they're wiped off the map. Judah does. They repent. They continue on. And even then, about 100 years after that, well, almost 200 years after that, Judah goes into exile. Again, they're put into this place of thorns. Seeking after other things didn't work out. But they return. They return to the Lord their God. They come back. There's mercy. There's forgiveness. And that's, again, the lesson for us. That there can be mercy. There can be forgiveness. That God's desire is not just to give us stringent rules, but also then to care for us, lest we destroy ourselves in our own sin, in order that we might find a God who is loving and caring. And we can then learn from that in our own relationships with each other. So, all right. I'm glad Israel figured it out. At least in this case, like, I'll go to my first husband. It was better than now. Well, yeah, you can't go anywhere. You said you were going to get all this stuff and you can't get out of the pen. Of course it was better. God chastises those he loves. And no, it's not fun. And I get the joke about it right now because thanks be to God, we're not in the great season of chastisement. But God calls, when he calls these things what they are, he does so for our benefit. Even if it means that it's going to suck for a while. But he does so to call us out of idolatry, to call us out of sin, to call us back to Christ.
Motion detected at door. Who can it be now?
I don't know what that was, Trina, but
Jeff set up a ring doorbell, so when something happens in the front yard, it says, "Who can it be now?"
nice. Nice. Apropos. All right. Good stuff. All right. So that's what we're going to finish up for tonight. Next time we'll get into verse 8, and probably then the rest of this chapter should go fairly quickly because it's going to be all of the rest of this chapter really does play on this same theme. I know I was kind of beating it home for us here, but the rest of the chapter is really going to play on that same theme, which is, just the Lord revealing, haha, it was me all along. It was like, Marvel did that with some show where it was Agatha all along. I couldn't tell you what show it was, but that little thing stuck in there. Anyway, we'll see you next week, and thanks for being here. If you have any questions, concerns, thoughts, comments as they come along, feel free to send them on my way, and we can take a look at them in more detail as we come together. So God bless you all, and we'll see you again soon.
Okay.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
night.